Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're tackling something, well, huge. We're diving deep into a device that's still, a year and a half out? The Samsung Galaxy S26 Ultra.
Yeah, it's pretty far off.
But the leaks, the sheer volume we've gathered, supplier contracts, internal specs, it's enough to basically map out Samsung's entire game plan for 2026.
It really is.
This isn't just about a new phone. It feels more like we're seeing how Samsung plans to stop playing catch-up and really go for dominance in that high-end Android space.
Exactly. And what's striking when you look at all this data together, the tech specs, the supplier deals, the renders, is how clear their strategy becomes.
Right.
It's less about flashy new looks, more about where the real engineering money is going. You see this push for big innovation, but also this cold, hard focus on fixing quality control, fixing their supply chain. It's a balancing act.
Okay, let's start unpacking this massive effort then. Our sources point to three really crucial areas where Samsung is placing its bets. First, this revolutionary display tech. And tied to that, a built-in privacy feature that could genuinely kill off those privacy screen protectors.
That's a big one.
Second, a really re-engineered camera system. Seems like they're acknowledging past issues, focusing hard on supplier quality, software smarts, maybe less on just raw megapixels.
Yeah, a shift in philosophy there.
And third, a pretty major strategy change for the whole S26 lineup. They're apparently bringing back the Plus model. A big correction.
These all feel like structural moves, don't they?
Yeah.
Designed to make the Ultra the undisputed tech leader again.
Absolutely. And where better to start than the face of the phone? The screen.
Right. Because if these leaks are accurate, the S26 Ultra display is just next level. It's a headline grabber.
Yeah.
Honestly, some of these specs sound like science fiction.
We're talking about the M14 OLED panel, right? Brand new.
That's the one, the M14. And looking at the speed and resolution, it's pushing way beyond current flagships. We're hearing 144 hertz refresh rate.
So a jump from 120 hertz? Nice.
Yeah, smoother motion. And it uses something called HUQ HD Plus technology.
Yeah.
That probably means better resolution, but maybe also smarter power use, better pixel layout, clearer visuals overall.
Faster refresh is good for fluidity, definitely. But what about actually touching the screen? I heard a number for touch response that just sounds unbelievable.
Okay, yeah, this one is genuinely phenomenal and almost hard to wrap your head around. The leak suggests a 3,200 hertz touch response rate.
3,200.
Yep. 3,200 hertz. And look, for you listening, this isn't just about slightly faster gaming reaction times, though it'll help there too.
Sure.
This kind of speed makes every single touch feel physically instant. Imagine using the S Pen for notes or drawing. The second that tip touches glass, boom, input registered.
Zero lag.
Essentially zero perceived lag. It promises an input speed faster than anything we've held, going from, say, 300 hertz to 3,200 hertz. It might sound abstract, but in terms of how fluid and real-time it feels, it's a massive leap.
Instant response. Reduces that little mental buffer we usually have. Okay, but the number that really just blew up these leaks was the brightness. Samsung always does bright screens, but this is different.
Completely. They're not just tweaking the brightness, they're changing the game for visibility everywhere. Sources say standard full-screen brightness hits 2,600 nits.
Which is already incredibly bright.
Right, one of the brightest out there. But then, for peak HDR content, watching a movie with those super intense highlights, the brightness supposedly hits an absolutely staggering 6,000 nits.
6,000 nits. That's a crazy number. Seriously, what does that even mean practically? And what about the downsides? Does the phone just melt? Does the battery drain in an hour?
It's the million-dollar question, isn't it? The leaks don't spell it out, but they strongly imply huge changes under the hood. Getting to 6,000 nits, even briefly for HDR, needs massive power delivery and, crucially, much better thermal management.
Right, gotta handle the heat.
You can't hit those peaks without a seriously upgraded cooling system. Bigger vapor chamber, better heat pipes, something. That probably affects the phone's thickness, maybe the battery size needed to.
Oh, okay.
It suggests Samsung built a whole new internal cooling setup just for this M14 panel to handle the power draw, the heat, so it can actually show the Dolby Vision and HDR10 plus content without instantly dimming itself.
So the challenge isn't just making the light, it's stopping the phone from cooking itself. Makes sense. And glare. Pumping out 6,000 nits doesn't help if it's just reflecting the sun back at you.
Exactly why it needs to work with the optics. The screen also reportedly gets a new advanced anti-reflection layer.
Better than before.
Sounds like it. Not just slightly better, but designed to keep things genuinely clear and visible even with the sun beating down on it. Without that, 6,000 nits is kind of pointless outdoors.
Yeah.
It's the combo. Massive brightness plus minimal reflection. That's what creates this monster display. Guarantees you get those accurate colors and sharp details outside, like you'd expect from a pro monitor. Hashtag tag 1.2, flex magic pixel and system level privacy.
Okay, for making things super visible too.
Yeah.
Making them strategically invisible. This flex magic pixel thing, it sounds like it takes the M14 panel and turns it into a privacy shield.
Yes.
Making screen privacy a built-in feature, not something you need those awkward, dim screen protectors for.
This is a huge strategic play by Samsung. The key is that privacy becomes native, part of the OS. We're seeing leaks about it in One UI 8.x development.
So baked right in.
Exactly. They're taking something people buy as an accessory and making it a core system feature using the OLED tech they're already masters of. Flex Magic Pixel seems to be their name for the engine driving this real-time pixel control.
How is it different from just a standard privacy filter then? Doesn't blocking the side view always make it worse for the person looking straight on?
Well, that's the clever bit. Apparently, it uses AI to dynamically adjust individual pixels in real time. A normal protector uses fixed tiny blinds, right? They just block light at angles.
Yeah, makes the screen dimmer overall.
The Flex Magic Pixel tech supposedly uses the electric field to change how the subpixels emit light and color based on viewing angle, so the AI can instantly block side views. Theoretically, without that big hit to clarity for you, holding the phone center.
Ah, the AI doing real-time adjustments, that's the key, which allows for clever activation too, right?
Precisely. Samsung's working on smart activation. The phone could use its sensors to figure out if you're in a high-risk place.
Like a crowded bus or a cafe.
Exactly. Packed train, busy airport lounge, places where shoulder surfing happens. The phone senses the environment and automatically dims the view from the sides.
But you still get control, right? So it doesn't just turn on when you don't want it to.
Absolutely. User rules are key. Leaks show a dedicated settings menu where you can set up your own triggers.
Like automatically engage privacy mode when I open my banking app.
Perfect example. Or when you open a password manager, or maybe even just when you're typing your PIN on the lock screen. It protects you proactively. No fumbling needed when you feel vulnerable.
Okay, but sometimes privacy isn't all or nothing. Like, I might want to read a notification, but not have the person next to me see my account balance behind it. Can it do that?
Yes, and this is where the AI gets really sophisticated, apparently. It lets you keep specific, maybe non-sensitive areas clear. Think like a notification banner popping up or maybe one photo you're looking at.
While blurring the background.
Exactly. Blurring, dimming, obscuring the sensitive stuff underneath on the rest of the screen. It's not just a blanket filter. It's described as smart content masking. Really granular.
And then there's extreme privacy mode. Sounds intense.
That's the break glass in case of emergency option, designed to make the screen almost totally unreadable from any side angle. Maximum obfuscation. You connect this privacy layer to the M14 panel. Samsung's really aiming for that secure luxury feel. They're saying, forget bulky cases or add-ons for security. It's built right in. It taps directly into that growing need people feel for data security in public.
All right, let's shift from that amazing display to the other hallmark of the Ultra line, the cameras. Usually we expect Samsung to just chase bigger megapixel numbers.
Right.
But the S26 leaks suggest something different, more strategic, maybe even a bit painful, like a focus on refinement, on quality control over just raw specs, hashtag tag 2.1, the S26 Ultra camera specifications.
Yeah, the strategy seems much more about leveraging AI processing power and really optimize the software. Because let's face it, the hardware is already pretty incredible.
Sure.
Samsung's challenge isn't really finding better sensors now. It's making sure the results are consistently excellent in all kinds of conditions. Yeah. Fixing the variability.
Okay, let's run through the specs we're hearing. Main wide and ultra wide seem similar, but with tweaks.
That's the word. Main lens stays at 200 megapixels using that known ISOCELL HP2200 sensor. Powerful chip. Ultra-wide stays at 50 megapixels. Strong numbers.
But the refinement?
The effort seems focused on improving how light actually gets into the main sensor. Better light capture, better light entry through the lens stack.
So not higher resolution, but brighter, cleaner images.
Exactly. Which should really help with night shots and especially low light video. Yeah. That's an area where, sometimes competitors have had an edge. They want to nail that.
So iterating on quality, not just sensor size. Smart, saves R&D money too. But the zoom cameras are getting number bumps, right?
Oh, yeah. The zoom stack is where the big megapixel upgrades are happening. Seems like that's where Samsung sees the competitive advantage. The 5x zoom jumps to 50 megapixels.
50? Wow, that's a big increase.
Massive increase from before. And even the shorter 3x zoom gets a bump from 10 megapixels to 12. That 50 MP on the 5x periscope is key. It gives the AI tons of raw data to work with for digital cropping and enhancing. Should mean much clearer shots even when you push the digital zoom further.
Makes sense. And there's a change coming for the regular S26 too, the non-Ultra.
Yeah, the base S26 might actually lose its dedicated zoom lens altogether.
Really? Simplify it.
Seems like it. Sources suggest it'll get a higher res 50 MP wide-angle lens instead of the old 12 MP wide.
Interesting.
It feels like a strategic simplification. Maximize the quality for the shots most people take wide and ultra-wide and keep the expensive, complex telephoto stuff exclusive to the Ultra flagship. A clearer separation. Hashtag tag 2.2, the supplier ecosystem overhaul.
Now, this next part might be the most revealing bit of the leaks, the actual business decisions Samsung's making about who builds these camera parts. They're totally shaking up their supplier list. Feels like a huge course correction based on, well, people complaining.
It seems like a direct result of the S24 and S25 experience. The sources are pretty blunt about it. Samsung's moving away from certain suppliers for the telephoto lenses because of ongoing quality inconsistencies and supply chain headaches.
Specifically Sony Optical, right, for the zoom units?
That's what's indicated. Problems linked to Sony Optical's role in the S24 and S25 Ultra zoom units. Users reported zoom quality being hit or miss, sometimes sharp, sometimes weirdly soft. Samsung seems to have traced that inconsistency back to the manufacturing process.
Wow. So this isn't just about getting a slightly better lens spec, it's about fixing a fundamental quality control problem that was hurting the Ultra's reputation for zoom.
Pretty much. Fixing that perception that the signature feature wasn't always reliable.
So who's the new favored partner they're bringing in?
They've reportedly signed a major new deal with MCNEX. That's a well-respected Korean company. They're set to supply the new folded zoom unit, the periscope camera.
Yeah.
And this is more than just a contract swap. It feels like a real vote of confidence. MCNEX used to handle the simpler 3x zoom. Now they're getting the critical high-res 5x zoom job. Samsung seems to be betting on them for consistent quality on the Ultra's defining feature.
Elevating MCNEX. And are they spreading the risk elsewhere too? Diversifying?
Absolutely. That's pure strategic planning. For the 3x zoom, the new 12MP one, they're bringing in new partners, PowerLogix and Partry.
Okay, spreading the load.
Exactly. By using multiple qualified suppliers for these key parts, they reduce the risk massively. If one supplier has issues, production volume, quality control, whatever, it doesn't cripple the whole Ultra launch or force a recall. It's smart defensive business. Protects the supply chain.
Good thinking. Now, before we get the full supplier list, there was a brief mention of some future tech. Something about making the camera bump smaller eventually.
Yeah, a little hint about long-term R&D. It's something apparently called IOP, lenses on prism.
Lenses on prism.
It's described as a totally new periscopic concept. Current folded zoom lenses, they work great, but they still take up a fair bit of space inside the phone, horizontally.
Right, makes the phone thick.
This IOP design supposedly uses a different layout that needs less internal room. Now, the sources say it's probably not ready for the S26 Ultra.
Ah, okay. Future tech.
But the fact that details leaked suggests Samsung is pushing hard to find ways to shrink that camera module thickness and maybe, just maybe, finally get rid of that camera wobble on future phones. Hashtag tag 2.3 detailed S26 Ultra component supplier breakdown.
Okay, just to really hammer home how complex the supply chain is and how much they're diversifying, let's walk through the full list of who's making what for the S26 Ultra cameras. It really shows they're hedging their bets everywhere.
Yeah, this list is basically the Ultra's camera DNA. The main 200 MP sensor, that's sourced internally. Samsung Electromechanics and Samsung's own divisions. They keep tight control on the big sensor.
Makes sense.
The 50 MP wide angle, that's Sony Optical and Partron. So Sony's still involved, but sharing the work. The new 12 MP 3x zoom is one of the newly diversified parts, supplied by PowerLogix and Partron. Two suppliers.
Right.
Then the crucial 50 MP 5x zoom, this is the most diversified. Three major suppliers. Samsung Electromechanics, Sony Optical, and MCNEX.
Three suppliers for the main zoom.
Maximum redundancy, maximum leverage on quality. And finally, the 12MP front camera. That's Nambuja and MCNEX.
What really jumps out is that triple sourcing on the 5x zoom and MCNEX getting key roles in both the front and the main zoom. Samsung is clearly using its buying power not just to get parts, but to demand reliability.
Absolutely. The message seems to be, we cannot afford another zoom quality issue. Consistency is mandatory now.
All right, let's move from the guts of the phone, the cameras, the display, to how it looks, what drives it, and the bigger market picture. Hashtag tag 3.1 physical design and S Pen details.
On the design front, the renders we've seen suggest, well, familiarity. It looked like Samsung sticking with the if it ain't broke approach for the overall look.
So still the flat frame, the rounded corners, like the S25 Ultra.
Pretty much. Retaining that premium, recognizable Ultra design. It's about continuity. Might disappoint anyone hoping for a radical new look, though.
And given the specs, that huge screen, the complex camera system, does that mean the wobble is back, the phone not sitting flat on a table?
Yeah, unfortunately, all signs point to the wobble sticking around. The leaked dimensions show the main body is about 7.9 millimeters thick.
Pretty thin.
But then the camera island, that big block with the 200 MP sensor and the 5x periscope, sticks out another 4.5 millimeter or so.
Oof, that's significant.
It means, yeah, put it on a table, tap the top of the screen, it's going to rock. It's just the physical reality of packing that much high-end camera gear, plus probably the cooling for the M14 display into a relatively slim phone.
A minor annoyance, but one that's almost become an Ultra signature feature now, hasn't it? Okay, what about the S Pen? Crucial for Ultra fans. Rumors of it disappearing seem wrong.
Those fears can be put to rest. Ice Universe confirmed it. The S26 Ultra will have the S Pen, and the slot stays in that familiar bottom left corner.
Phew. Any changes to the pen itself?
The design's apparently refreshed, looks a bit more elegant, fits nicely into the flat frame.
Okay, cosmetic, what about tech?
It keeps the standard Bluetooth stuff, air actions, all that. But the leaks do hint at some new, currently secret capabilities being tested. Maybe tighter AI integration, new ways to interact with that display.
Interesting.
More practically, they've reportedly worked on the basics. Better power efficiency, more stable Bluetooth connection. And one small detail. The back end of the S Pen, the clever part, is apparently redesigned. No longer flat, maybe easier to grab or just a style thing. Hashtag tag 3.2, the processor conundrum.
All right, now for the big one, the internal daddle, the processor. This feels like the single biggest potential weak spot for this otherwise incredible phone. Qualcomm's announced the Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 5.
Which is expected to be a beast.
Yeah. Yet Samsung is apparently seriously debating using its own Exynos chip in the Ultra.
This is a massive gamble. Huge strategic risk. It could potentially undermine all the goodwill they build with the screen and camera fixes.
And the reports say they might use the Exynos 2600 even in places that normally only get Snapdragon, right? Like the US.
That's the really controversial part. Deploying Exynos potentially everywhere, even in markets like the US and China where users strongly prefer Snapdragon.
Why would they risk it? Everyone knows the history, the performance gap concerns with Exynos. Is it just about saving money? Vertical integration?
It's probably a mix of things.
Yeah.
Cost control is definitely part of it. Making your own chip avoids those big licensing fees to Qualcomm.
Sure.
Vertical integration gives them more control over optimization, at least in theory. They could tune the Exynos 2600 specifically for that M14 display, for the new camera AI features.
Okay.
And maybe the biggest strategic reason, independence. In a shaky global supply chain, being less reliant on one outside chip maker gives them resilience. They want to control their own destiny.
But the performance gap history is real. People in Exynos regions have often reported faster throttling, worse gaming performance, lower battery life compared to the Snapdragon versions. How does Samsung convince users this time will be different?
That is the $1,300 question, isn't it?
Yeah.
Samsung will definitely claim the Exynos 2600 makes huge leaps in performance and efficiency, maybe using newer manufacturing tech to close the gap.
But users are skeptical.
Deeply skeptical. And any hint of performance inconsistency, especially on the Ultra model, will just explode online. It could really hurt sales, particularly with the early adopters, the enthusiasts, who often decide based purely on the chip inside.
I gotta say, it feels fundamentally risky for a flagship. You spend billions on this amazing screen, fixing the cameras, adding privacy features, all needing stable, powerful processing.
Right.
If the Exynos 2600 can't keep up under heavy load gaming, serious AI camera stuff, doesn't that just negate all that other engineering work?
It absolutely introduces a huge question mark, a massive variable. If that screen needs sustained power for brightness, if the AI needs constant grunt, the processor has to deliver without faltering under heat.
Yeah.
If Exynos throttles faster than the Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 5, then the actual user experience of that 6,000 nit screen or that fancy 50 MP zoom just won't be as good. That's the danger. They're potentially betting the whole experience on a chip with a shaky history.
Forces people to wait for reviews, slows down those crucial initial sales. Risky indeed. Hashtag 3.3 strategic model adjustments.
And that high-stakes processor decision kind of leads into the wider market strategy. Because we also got confirmation Samsung's bringing back a model many thought was dead, the Galaxy S26 Plus.
The Plus is back. Why?
Seems like pure market correction. Ice Universe leaks suggested a direct response to disappointing S25 sales figures.
Ah, so the S25 lineup didn't quite hit the mark.
Apparently, the gap between the base S25 and the super premium S25 Ultra was just too big. They didn't effectively capture that important slice of the market in the middle.
So they misread the market need. Tried to simplify too much?
It seems that way. The context from the leaks is interesting. Samsung was supposedly influenced by Apple's strategy, specifically the thinking behind the less successful iPhone Air concept, or just simplifying the middle tier. Samsung maybe expected a similar market shift for their base model, but it didn't happen. They realized they'd left a big, profitable gap in their own lineup by ditching the Plus.
The source actually called that move funny, didn't they? Criticizing Samsung for just following Apple instead of having their own vision for Android users?
Yeah, it reads like an admission they got it wrong. Bringing back the Plus, slightly smaller screen than the Ultra, fewer camera features maybe, no S Pen. But still, premium is their way to quickly win back those customers, the ones who want a big screen but don't need all the Ultra bells and whistles. It's a necessary tactical retreat.
Okay, so despite all this incredible text, the screen, the privacy, the camera fixes, the processor drama, bringing back the Plus, what are we hearing about price? Especially in the US, is it going up significantly?
Surprisingly, no. Despite the huge investment in the M14 display tech and fixing the supply chain, the leak suggests Samsung wants to stay aggressive on price, maybe to offset any worries about the Exynos chip.
So what's the number?
The reports say the S26 Ultra is not expected to go over $1,300 in the US market.
Really? Under $1,300?
That's the current expectation. If they can pack in all that tech, especially that M14 panel and the privacy features, and keep it at that price point, that would be seriously competitive value. #tag outro.
Okay, let's try and wrap our heads around all this. The S26 Ultra, based on everything we're seeing, isn't about small tweaks or just a new coat of paint.
Not at all.
It feels like a deep foundational overhaul, a massive, expensive bet on having the absolute best display, on making privacy a non-negotiable built-in feature, and maybe most importantly, on finally fixing those camera supply chain issues that caused real headaches before.
Yeah.
This feels like Samsung aiming for peak performance and reliability, not just peak style.
So what does it all mean for you, the potential buyer? Well, if that M14 display and the AI privacy features live up to the hype, Samsung's aiming for a phone that masters any environment. Stunning visuals and secure data, whether you're inside or battling bright sunlight.
Right.
They're trying to balance that bleeding-edge innovation that frankly bonkers 6,000 nits with the down-to-earth need for reliable parts from partners they trust, like MCNEX. The S26 Ultra seems engineered to finally solve some real pain points Android users have just put up with for years.
Which brings us to our final thought, something for you to chew on as you maybe start saving up for 2026. Samsung is pushing display tech and security features way beyond anyone else. Unmatched visual power, built-in privacy.
Huge leaps forward.
But at the same time, they are seriously considering putting a potentially less consistent processor, the Exynos, right at the heart of their most premium, most performance-hungry phone.
The big internal conflict.
So here's the question. Which of these massive strategic moves will ultimately define the S26 Ultra's success or failure for you, the user? Will it be the undeniable brilliance and security of that 6,000 nit AI-powered privacy screen? Or will it be the enormous gamble on using Exynos potentially everywhere? Can the world's best display overcome the shadow of potential performance inconsistency?
That's the billion-dollar question for Samsung and for buyers.
Think about that one. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.